August 17th, 1981. The sun had just gone down over Brooklyn. A car pulled up to a two-family house on East 58th Street in Flatlands. The man who stepped out was 51 years old. Silver hair, tailored suit, calm eyes. He had survived 30 years in a business that buries most men before 40. He walked through the front door. He shook hands with the men inside. And then someone pointed toward the basement stairs. He already knew. He walked down anyway. Two men were waiting at the bottom. The first, .38 caliber round went off before he hit the concrete. He fell. He looked up at the man holding the gun. And according to court testimony that didn't surface until decades later, Donnie Napolitano looked his killer in the eye and said 7 words. "Hit me one more time and make it good." Then they did. This was not a street soldier. This was not some low-level associate caught in the wrong place. This was a captain of the Bonanno crime family. A man who controlled one of the most powerful crews in Brooklyn. A man who 6 months earlier had been one of the rising stars of the entire New York underworld. And he died in a basement because he trusted the wrong man. Except here is the thing nobody actually says out loud. He did not trust the wrong man. The wrong man was inserted into his life by the most powerful law enforcement agency on earth, maintained for 6 years, and handed to him by his own soldier as a legitimate earner. Sonny Black did not make a mistake. Sonny Black followed every rule perfectly. And the rules killed him for it. This is his story, not the footnote version, not the supporting character in a Johnny Depp movie. The full story, the real story, of the most dangerous man in the entire Donnie Brasco operation, and what actually happened to him after the cameras stopped rolling. Stay with me. This one goes deep. Donnie Napolitano was born on June 16, 1930, in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. His parents had come from Naples. They settled in a neighborhood where the loan shark on the corner was somebody's uncle, and the bookmaker behind the candy store was somebody's cousin. The infrastructure of organized crime was not something Dominic discovered. It was something he was born into. By the time he was a teenager, the choice had already been made. Not by him, by the geography, by the era, by the simple fact that in Greenpoint in the 1940s, the men who had money, the men who had respect, the men who walked into a room and changed the temperature of it, those men were connected. Dominic watched them. He studied them. And unlike a lot of young guys who tried to look like gangsters by acting loud and reckless, Donnie Napolitano did something smarter. He listened. He ran errands for older men. He kept his mouth shut. He learned how the machinery actually worked beneath the surface. While other guys were chasing the image, he was absorbing the substance. He came up through the Bonanno family, one of the original 5 families of the American Cosa Nostra. Founded during the reorganization of 1931, when Lucky Luciano, Meyer Lansky, and the old Mustache Pete's restructured the entire criminal landscape of New York City. Somewhere in his 20s, his hair went prematurely silver. Not gray, silver. A striking, almost white silver that made him look distinguished even when he was still young. The crew started calling him Sonny Black. The nickname was a contradiction built into a single name. The brightness of silver hair against the darkness of the life he lived. The name stuck forever. Through his 30s and 40s, Sonny Black built his reputation quietly. No unnecessary violence. No public spectacles. He earned money. He shared it correctly. He respected the hierarchy. And he handled problems before they became crises. These are the qualities that get a man promoted in organized crime. And they got Donnie Napolitano promoted. By 1979, he had been elevated to the rank of Capo Regime, captain. He was given command of a Brooklyn crew based out of a social club called the Motion Lounge, located at 420 Graham Avenue in Williamsburg. He lived in an apartment directly above it. He woke up in the morning, walked downstairs, and was at work. His crew was active. Numbers, loan sharking, hijackings, extortion. They were earners. And Sonny Black ran them with the kind of quiet discipline that made the administration notice. By 1979, Donnie Napolitano was a man on the way up inside the Bonanno family. And then the FBI walked into his life, wearing the face of Donnie Brasco. To understand what happened next, you have to understand the state of federal law enforcement in the mid-1970s. For 40 years, J. Edgar Hoover had publicly denied that the American Mafia even existed as an organized structure. Whether that denial was political, corrupt, or simply strategic is a debate for another video. What matters is the result. By the time Hoover died in 1972, the FBI had spent 4 decades refusing to seriously engage with the most powerful criminal organization in American history. By the mid-70s, the Bureau finally started catching up. RICO statutes had been passed in 1970. Wiretapping had been expanded. But there was still one thing they did not have, and that was an insider. Every prosecution was built from the outside. Surveillance footage. Wiretaps of conversations where men spoke in codes and half-sentences. Informants who were low-level and limited. The wall around the Mafia had never been breached from the inside. Then came Joseph Dominic Pistone. Pistone was 37 years old, born in Erie, Pennsylvania. Italian-American. He spoke the language. He understood the culture. He had the face, the mannerisms, the instincts, and he had something rarer than all of that. He had the psychological makeup to disappear into another identity for years at a time without breaking. In September 1976, Pistone went under as Donnie Brasco, small-time jewel thief, New York. The operation was supposed to last 6 months, maybe a year. Get some evidence, pull out, prosecute. It lasted nearly 6 years. By 1977, Brasco had attached himself to the Colombo family through a low-level associate. He was building credibility, establishing his legend, learning the rhythms of how men in this world actually moved and spoke and thought. By 1978, he had been introduced around enough that he was a known face in certain circles. And eventually, through a chain of introductions that the FBI carefully documented at every step, he ended up in the orbit of a man named Benjamin Ruggiero. Lefty Guns, they called him. Lefty Two Guns. Benjamin Ruggiero was a soldier in the Bonanno family, assigned to Sonny Black's crew. He was a lifer. He had been in the street since he was a teenager. He was also a degenerate gambler who lost more money than he ever made. A man whose ego was as large as his wallet was empty, and someone who craved validation the way other men craved oxygen. Donnie Brasco gave him that validation. Brasco listened to Lefty's complaints. He laughed at Lefty's stories. He treated Lefty like a man of wisdom and significance. And he brought in enough scores, enough legitimate criminal activity, to look exactly like what he claimed to be. Lefty took him under his wing completely. He became Lefty's guy. In the language of the Cosa Nostra, that meant Lefty was now responsible for Donnie Brasco. Lefty had vouched for him. Whatever Donnie did reflected on Lefty. And here is where the machinery of destruction started moving toward Sonny Black. Because in the Bonanno family, when a soldier sponsors someone, that someone becomes an extension of the soldier's captain's responsibility. Lefty was Sonny Black's guy, which made Donnie Brasco, by extension, Sonny Black's concern. By 1980, Sonny had personally taken notice of Brasco. He liked him. Donnie was sharp. Donnie was quiet. Donnie earned good money and did not create problems and did not run his mouth. These were exactly the qualities Sonny Black valued in a man. He started pulling Donnie away from Lefty, bringing him closer, into his inner circle. Sonny set him up on jobs. Sonny vouched for him personally to other captains across multiple families. Sonny brought him into operations in Florida, where the crew was running out of a place called the King's Court Bottle Club in Holiday. And by late 1980, something extraordinary had happened. Sonny Black had decided to propose Donnie Brasco for full membership in the Bonanno crime family. Let that land for a moment. The FBI had inserted an agent into a street crew in 1976. 4 years later, that agent was about to become a made member of one of the 5 families of the American Mafia. To understand how significant that is, you have to understand what becoming a made man actually means. The requirements are strict and non-negotiable. You must be 100% Italian on your father's side. You must be sponsored by an existing made member who stakes his own life on your character. And you must have what they call your bones, meaning you must have committed murder for the family. By 1981, Bonanno boss Philip Restelli, who was incarcerated, was preparing to open the books for new inductions. Sonny had Donnie Brasco on the short list, but there was one requirement that still needed to be fulfilled. Donnie Brasco needed to earn his bones, and Sonny Black had the perfect contract waiting. To understand the contract, you have to understand the civil war that was tearing the Bonanno family apart through 1980 and into 1981. Philip Rastelli was in federal prison. With the boss locked up, the family had fractured into two factions that had been circling each other with increasing hostility for over a year. On one side were three captains: Alphonse Sonny Red Indelicato, Philip Philly Lucky Giacconi, and Dominic Big Trin Trinchera, a man who reportedly weighed over 350 pounds and who had as much Creolange and Sema physical presence as he had political ambition. These three were aligned with the old guard and wanted control of the family administration, while Rastelli remained imprisoned. On the other side was Joseph Big Joey Massino, a captain from Maspeth, Queens, and his loyalists. Sonny Black was aligned with Massino. The tension had been building for months. Both factions knew it was coming to a head. The only question was who moved first. On May 5, 1981, Massino's side moved first. The three captains were invited to a meeting at a social club on 13th Avenue in Brooklyn. The pretext was a sit-down, a peace meeting, a chance to resolve the internal dispute through conversation. It was an ambush. Massino loyalists came out of a back room with shotguns and pistols. Indelicato, Giacconi, and Trinchera were shot to death in seconds. The three capos' murder, as it became known in law enforcement files, was one of the most decisive internal power moves in the modern history of organized crime. Three sitting captains eliminated simultaneously in a single afternoon. Sonny Black was in that building. He was part of the operation. He helped clean up afterward. He helped move the bodies. This placed him firmly and irrevocably in the Massino faction, which was now the controlling faction of the Bonanno family. But there was one problem. Bruno Indelicato, the son of Sonny Red, had not been at the meeting. He was still alive. He went underground immediately, and the family needed him dead. He was a direct heir of the rival faction and a potential rallying point for any surviving opposition. Sonny Black gave that contract to Donnie Brasco. Carry out this murder, earn your bones, and you will be made. The FBI was now staring at a crisis with no clean exit. Their agent had been given a murder contract by a sitting captain of the Bonanno family. Refusing to carry it out meant exposure. Carrying it out meant committing a murder. There was no third option that didn't end the operation or end someone's life. The Bureau made the only call it could make. In late July of 1981, after nearly 6 years undercover, Joseph Pistone was extracted. The cover story given to the street was simple. Donnie Brasco had vanished. Disappeared. Maybe he was dead. Maybe he had run. Nobody knew. Sonny Black was confused. He sent word out looking for Donnie. He told Lefty that Brasco better surface, because there were questions that needed answering. He was not yet alarmed, because men disappeared sometimes in this world. There were dozens of explanations. He never imagined the real one. On July 28, 1981, 2 FBI agents arrived at the Motion Lounge. They sat down with Dominic Napolitano, and they told him Donnie Brasco was Special Agent Joseph D. Pistone of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. He had been undercover inside Sonny Black's crew for nearly 6 years. Every conversation had been documented. Every introduction had been recorded. Every operation had been observed. Every man Donnie Brasco had ever met through Sonny Black was now known to federal law enforcement. They had tapes. They had photographs. They had testimony. They had 6 years of evidence that touched virtually every significant operation the crew had run. Sonny Black sat across from those 2 agents and listened to all of it without raising his voice, without flinching, without a single visible reaction. When they finished, he said 2 words: "You got me." He thanked them for telling him personally. He stood up, he shook their hands, and he walked them to the door. Now I want you to think about what was actually happening in that moment, because that handshake was not politeness. That handshake was the gesture of a man who had just been told that his death sentence had already been signed. Sonny Black understood the rules of his world more deeply than almost anyone alive, and the rule was simple and absolute. When a captain brings a federal agent into his crew, regardless of whether he knew, regardless of whether he was deceived, regardless of the circumstances, the captain is responsible. The captain vouched. The captain sponsored. The captain almost made him. There was no defense. There was no appeal. There was no sit-down where you could explain your way out of this. The commission did not hold hearings on extenuating circumstances. The contract on his life had effectively been signed the moment that news started traveling up the chain, and Sonny Black knew it. What Dominic Napolitano did next is the part of this story that I think about the most. He had options. The FBI agents who told him the news were not there simply to inform him. They were there because they wanted him. Sonny Black was the highest-ranking Bonanno member who had direct, personal, documented contact with an undercover agent. He had information on the three captains' murder. He had information on Messino. He had 6 years of operational knowledge about the Bonanno family's activities across New York and Florida. The offer was on the table. Not stated explicitly, but there. Witness protection, immunity, a new life somewhere far from Brooklyn. Sonny refused. He told them he had to face this. For 19 days, Dominic Napolitano lived inside what I can only describe as the longest goodbye in the history of organized crime. He kept showing up at the Motion Lounge. He kept meeting with his crew. He kept his routine. He kept his composure. Everyone around him knew. His crew knew. The family knew. Other families knew. The story had traveled fast. A dead man walking. And he walked anyway. What he did during those 19 days tells you who this man actually was at the core. He started quietly settling his affairs. He took his rings off his fingers, his chains off his neck. The pinky rings and the watches he had accumulated over 3 decades in the life, he gave them to the people he cared about. He left his billfold with his bartender. He left small amounts of cash with people who meant something to him. He did not call his ex-wife to warn her. He did not write letters. He did not make any gesture that would signal to the watching family that he was afraid, because fear, in that world, would have been the final humiliation. He had lived with dignity. He was going to die with it. Think about what that actually requires. For 19 days, knowing that every meeting could be the one, knowing that the men you're sitting across from may already have received the order, knowing that the next car that slows down on the street might be the last thing you ever see. For 19 days he held that composure. That is not stupidity. That is not delusion. That is a man who has made his peace and decided what his final act is going to say about who he was. On August 17, 1981, Sonny Black got the call. Come to a meeting in Flatlands. He went. The address was a 2-family house on East 58th Street, belonging to a Bonanno associate. He arrived. He greeted the men inside. He was led toward the staircase to the basement. Frank Lino was waiting at the bottom. Sonny was pushed from behind. He tumbled down the stairs. The first shot hit him as he landed on the concrete floor. He looked up at the man standing over him, and he said it. Hit me one more time and make it good. Frank Lino emptied the revolver. Dominic Napolitano was dead before the echo faded off the basement walls. His body did not surface for nearly a year. On August 12, 1982, almost exactly 12 months after his murder, a body was recovered at the intersection of South Avenue and Bridge Street in Arlington, Staten Island. It had been stuffed into a hospital body bag and dumped in a creek. The corpse's hands had been severed at the wrists. The face was so badly decomposed that visual identification was impossible. Dental records confirmed it was Sonny Black. The severed hands were not random. They were not practical. They were a message written in the oldest language the Cosa Nostra knew. In the tradition of the American Mafia, when a captain vouches for a man who turns out to be an infiltrator, the punishment for the act of vouching, for the handshake, for the embrace, for the sponsorship, is to remove the hands that performed those acts. It was a statement to every captain, in every family, across every city. This is what happens when you bring the wrong man into the room. Except Sonny Black had not brought the wrong man into the room. The FBI had put the wrong man into his room and made him invisible for 6 years. And still, the hands came off. Now let's talk about what happened to every other person in this story. Because the contrast is where the real lesson lives. Joseph Pistone walked out of the undercover operation with a permanent target on his back. The Bonanno family placed a $500,000 contract on his life, a contract that technically remains open to this day in certain quarters. He spent the 1980s testifying in trial after trial. His evidence and testimony contributed directly to more than 200 indictments and over 100 convictions across the 5 families. He retired from the FBI in 1986. He wrote the memoir that became the 1997 film starring Johnny Depp as Donnie Brasco and Al Pacino as Lefty Ruggiero. He has spent the decades since living under various names and security arrangements. Benjamin Ruggiero, the man who first brought Donnie Brasco into the world that led to Sonny Black, was arrested before his own crew could reach him. The FBI got to him first, which was the only reason he was still breathing. He was convicted and sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. He died of cancer in 1994. He never gave up a single name. He went to his grave as a soldier. Joseph Massino, the man who had almost certainly approved the contract on Sonny Black's life, rose to become the official boss of the Bonanno family by 1991. He ran the family for over a decade and became one of the most powerful figures in American organized crime. Then in 2004, facing a potential death penalty in a murder case, Joseph Massino did something that no sitting boss of a New York family had ever done in the history of the Cosa Nostra. He cooperated. He flipped. Completely. He testified against his own underboss. He gave up names, operations, murders. He became the most significant cooperating witness the Bonanno family had ever produced. The man who ordered Sonny Black killed for the appearance of bringing a federal agent into the prom, became, in the end, the greatest actual traitor in Bonanno family history. I want you to hold that for a second. Really hold it. Sonny Black died with his hands cut off for unknowingly hosting a federal agent that the FBI embedded inside his crew. Joseph Massino, the man who signed that death warrant, died a free man in witness protection after voluntarily handing everything he knew to the federal government. Frank Lino, the trigger man who shot Sonny Black in that basement and then looked down at a dying man and heard those final words, cooperated in 2003. He admitted to the Sonny Black murder under oath. He testified against Massino. He went into witness protection. Bruno Indelicato, the original target of Donnie Brasco's murder contract, was eventually apprehended. He served decades in federal prison. As of the most recent public records, he outlived almost everyone else in this story. The Motion Lounge at 420 Graham Avenue in Williamsburg was eventually closed. The building still stands. The neighborhood around it gentrified into one of the most expensive zip codes in Brooklyn. People pay $4,000 a month to live near where Sonny Black ran one of the most active criminal crews in New York. Tourists walk past that address every week without any idea what happened in those rooms. The 1997 film Donnie Brasco is a good movie. It is a genuinely well-made film with strong performances and a real emotional core. But there are things it gets wrong about Sonny Black that I think matter. The film focuses almost entirely on the relationship between Brasco and Lefty Ruggiero. Pacino plays Lefty as the emotional center of the story. The final scene, where Lefty puts his jewelry on the dresser before walking out to face what he knows is coming, is one of the most powerful moments in 90s crime cinema. That gesture was taken from Sonny Black. Sonny Black was the one who took his rings off his fingers and left them with the people he cared about during those 19 days. The movie borrowed that detail from the real captain and gave it to the soldier because Lefty was the character the story had space to develop. In the film, Sonny Black appears as a presence, a looming authority figure, someone the audience understands has power, without ever being given the depth to show why that power is complicated and tragic. Michael Madsen plays him with menace, which is accurate. But what the film never captures is the particular quality of a man who understood exactly what was happening to him and chose dignity over survival. The movie also compresses and simplifies the 19 days into something that reads as narrative convenience. In reality, those 19 days were a psychological and moral ordeal that most human beings cannot begin to imagine sustaining. and Sonny Black sustained it without breaking. Here is the conclusion that I think the full story demands. The American Mafia killed Donnie Napolitano not because he was weak, not because he was careless, not because he violated the code. They killed him because he followed the code precisely, and the code was not designed for what the FBI had done to him. The rule existed for a reason. When you vouch for someone, you are staking everything on their legitimacy. That rule creates accountability, and it keeps the organization protected from casual infiltration by people who half know the life. It is not a stupid rule, but the FBI did not send someone who half knew the life. They sent Joseph Pistone, a man who spent 6 years becoming indistinguishable from the men around him. A man who passed every test, earned every dollar, survived every moment of scrutiny, and fooled every defense mechanism the Bonanno family had. The system worked exactly as designed. The problem was that the system was designed in an era when nobody believed the FBI could or would do what they did. Sonny Black's death was not punishment for failure. It was punishment for a world that changed without warning around a man who had spent his entire life mastering the world that existed before. And the final cruelty is this: the institutions that destroyed him on both sides, the FBI that embedded the agent and the mafia that held him responsible for being deceived, both of those institutions ultimately rewarded their betrayers. Pistone got book deals and a movie. Massino got witness protection and a relatively comfortable end. Lino got a deal and disappeared into a new life. Sonny Black got a basement floor, a body bag, and a creek in Staten Island, with his hands cut off for following the rules. Donnie Napolitano, born June 16, 1930, in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, died August 17, 1981, in a basement in Flatlands, Brooklyn. He spent 51 years building a name in a world that erased him in under 30 seconds. His last words were an instruction to his killer: make it clean, make it good. Even at the end, he was managing the moment. Even at the end, he was the captain. That is Sonny Black, not the cautionary footnote, not the supporting character. The man who lived by the code, died by the code, and never once asked the code to account for what it had done to him. If this story stayed with you, subscribe. We go this deep every single week. And I want to know what you think in the comments below. Who actually paid the higher price in the Donnie Brasco case? Sonny Black, who died for being perfectly deceived? Or Joe Pistone, who has spent 40 years waiting to find out if today is the day someone collects on that contract? Tell me where you land. I'll see you in the next one.